Rob, the NBA season is a week away. The start of training camp. And Damian Lillard, who most people thought would be traded by now, he requested his trade several months ago now and has yet to be moved from the Portland Trailblazers. Of course, he wants to go to Miami and nowhere else. So he
should blame himself, too.
He's saying that the only team he wants to go to, at least, he hasn't said it from his own lips, but these are the reports and people around the league are saying it. It's all over. Everybody knows. He only wants to go to the Miami Heat. And the Miami Heat, keep in mind, were in the NBA Finals last year. Okay? And, Rob, have been in the NBA Finals two of the last, 4 seasons, I believe it is?
2 of the last 4, yes.
With the same, cast or, core of players. All right, so keep that in mind. Dame went on the It Is What It Is show with Cameron and Mace, the rappers. And he was asked about Kevin Durant, which, remember when Durant went from Oklahoma City to Golden State, ended up winning 2 championships in 3 years, 2 championships in 2 healthy years, really. And still, there are some that belittle those championships to some degree, even though he won the MVP in the finals both times. But here's Lillard when he was asked about that.
I think KD is, obviously, he's one of the greatest players of all time. But if I was in his shoes, I wouldn't have done that personally. Like, I just felt like it's the team they lost to. It's a team that had been, I think they had won it a couple times, or they had won it once before he got there. I wouldn't have been able to. That ain't something that I would have did. But I think for everybody's situation, you got to do what you want to do.
I don't know.
You could start.
I don't know what the follow-up question was, and Rob G, maybe you know. The follow-up question should have been, the talk is you only want to go to Miami. Like, they were in the NBA Finals last year. Now, and this is, I imagine, where Damian Lillard will split hairs.
Chris, you know that wasn't a follow-up. You already know.
This is where I imagine Damian Lillard will split hairs. Because there's a spectrum, Rob. And on one end of the spectrum, and I wouldn't even call it a spectrum, but the most extreme example to date was Kevin Durant going to the team that had just beaten him in the Western Conference Finals and had also won a championship 2 years earlier, and going to them to play. And that's obviously him going from Oklahoma City to Golden State. The other one, it's not on the other side. That's why I said I don't want to call it a spectrum. But something that was similar in principle, but not as, egregious for those that think it's negative. I didn't look at it as a negative, but for those, but something that wasn't as pronounced as what Durant did was LeBron linking up with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. Now, he didn't go to a team that had won a championship, but and not a team that had beaten him, but he did go to a stacked team, and he made it. He actually brought Bosh with him, so they made it more stacked to the point where they were clearly on paper the best team in the league. And then now, Rob, if what Damian Lillard is asking, in my view, and Rob G, didn't he at the time criticize LeBron? I think Dame was in college. But he had tweeted something about LeBron going to Miami, if I remember correctly. Rob G, check that out. But what Dame is looking to do, Rob, to go to Miami with Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler, is in the middle of those. Not quite as, he didn't get beat by Miami in the playoffs. They didn't win a championship. But they are technically the best team in the Eastern Conference. They won it last year, and if he goes there, they will, to a lot of people, be the big favorites in the East. So it doesn't sound good what Dame is saying, because a lot of people are looking at it like, dude, you basically doing the same thing.
It's hypocrisy at the highest level. I mean, these guys, I don't even think that they understand or know what hypocrisy is or being a hypocrite or what they're even talking about. Chris, you couldn't have laid it out any better. He's doing the same exact thing. Okay, they didn't win a championship, but they've been to the championship. They're a top-level team. You're trying to hitch your little red wagon onto the Miami Heat. It's just comical. I hope they don't trade him. I do. Because I don't understand
it. It'll be interesting to see what he does.
And he's to blame why he hasn't been traded.
Yeah,
if they would have kept their mouth shut, right, Chris, they could have gotten a deal. And Miami would have had to pay up. But once you made it that other teams were scared off and had no interest, so they couldn't up the ante to get Portland the best available deal, that killed it for him. That's why he's still there.
And he could have given them a list, a real list of maybe 5 teams that are good, right? And I think Portland would have worked with that. I don't think they would have said, nah, we're going to send you to basketball Siberia and all that. I mean, they maybe will make the best deal for them. That's their obligation. But I just think you really painted them into a corner. And so right now they're like, dude, we're not doing a trade that we don't feel is good for us. And it doesn't matter if some of the pundits feel it's good for him. I'm wondering about Jovic, Nikola Jovic, this kid who looks promising. I mean, I'm not going to act like I know for sure how good he is. He played well in the World Cup. He showed, I've been told that in Miami they like him. He's 6'10", can shoot the ball. But, if Portland doesn't feel like it's a good deal, it's their prerogative not to make this trade. And had Dame just given them a list, Rob, of teams, I agree with you that he almost certainly would be traded already. And I think that Dame he stood on that rock so long of loyalty, and I'm not into the super teams, and even what he just said,
and he didn't have about to.
Durant,
and he didn't have to, Chris.
He has said that a long time ago he said that for a long time with Durant, because obviously it was now a long time ago when he made the move. But I think he's trying not to backtrack on what he said before, but it's looking bad because it's like, do you understand what you're doing? And you can't even say, because he probably, and obviously, he's the one that's a top 75 player. He's the one that is a perennial all-star and is made all-NBA. He would be regarded as the best player on that Heat team, with all due respect to Jimmy Butler, who's a very good player, and Bam, who's an all-star. You can't even use that card, though, to say, well, I'm going there as the best player. Because Kevin Durant went to Golden State as the best player. You can't even say that. And so it's a bad look for Dame to say what he said about Durant. I mean, he could say that, but then it's hard, for you to say I'm only going to this one team.
Right,
that doesn't
he's not going to the Pistons. You know what I mean, Chris? Or some team that.
And I don't even think you're saying. I mean, we get.
But my point is you can't criticize somebody else, though. My point is you can't criticize somebody else when you're going to a similar situation. That's all.
No,
it doesn't make sense.
But if he gave them a list of 5 teams, say it was Boston, Miami, and teams that were good, would you still be as critical? I think it boils down to him saying one team that was in the finals last year, and I don't want to hear about any other teams like that.
I get that part, but I think he's a hypocrite about the Kevin Durant. I don't know how that comes out of your mouth that you're talking about, well, I would have never done what Kevin Durant did. Well, what are you doing? It doesn't even make Chris. Well, what are you doing? But if there was anybody, and hey, you know what, the other podcast, whatever they're doing, anybody with any ounce of interviewing skills would have said, wait a minute. Aren't you doing what KD did? I mean, aren't you going to a better team with a chance to win a championship? Like KD hadn't won one yet, and he went there. They were coming off of losing 3-1 lead to LeBron. He didn't go there after they won their second in a row, Chris.
Right.
They had lost.
Yeah.
They had just choked down one of the biggest finals ever.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, now, again, they won the year before, but in truth, and look, a championship's a championship. You know that. We don't take anybody's championship. I mean, when Toronto won it and KD was hurt, hey, Toronto won the championship, period, right? And Golden State won that championship in 2015. But, Rob, if we really want to analyze it to the nth degree, we can say easily, if Kyrie and Kevin Love are playing, they win that championship. Cleveland wins, right? And Golden State doesn't win that title and has no rings before Kevin Durant goes there. So it would be very similar. So and look, he probably would have, because I don't think he can talk about wanting to go to Miami. He probably, remember he was interviewed with Mark Spears a few weeks ago and he wouldn't talk about it. So he probably would have gave a generic no comment type answer, but you still got to ask it. You do still have to follow up. And again, Rob G, do you know if they did follow up with anything like that? Did they talk about that?
Nope.
Oh, they did. Okay. So, but yeah, it's not a good look. It's not a good look. And I don't know. It'll be interesting. I mean, we're right there at training camp. Because if I'm Portland, I'm moving on from Damian Lillard. Like, I'm done. I got my new point guard, Scoot Henderson, and we're going young. And I'm not saying they should just make a deal to get rid of him, but I don't need him there with my new team. That's for sure. And so it'll be interesting how this plays out if indeed he isn't traded before the start of training camp.